Scholars, happy Thursday. It's April 30th today. I hope your week is going well, and today's going to be our last lesson on theme because remember, tomorrow is Fun Friday and you will be listening to the next chapter of our Read Aloud. So this week we started learning about a new topic in ELA, theme. And by now you should have a good understanding by this time in the week that theme is the message or lesson an author wants the reader to take away from the story. So, and another thing you should also know to use details from the passage in your response to think about theme and improve your thinking. All right. So if you have done those things, you have hit your target this week. So you should be able to use details to prove your thinking and be able to have a takeaway from reading these passages and stories. So now what we're going to do is we're going to read a second fable today, just like we did yesterday. And we're going to point out some things that are important that help lead us to determining our theme. All right, so our second fable this week is something that you also might be familiar with. It's another Aesop fable similar to yesterday's, which was the Tortoise and the Hare. And today we're going to read the Crow and the Pitcher. And we will talk about what details or evidence lead us to our theme and how we can get there. All right, so just listen and follow along, and then we're going to talk about some key details. A crow, half dead with thirst, came upon a pitcher which had once been full of water. But when the crow put its beak into the mouth of the pitcher, he found that only very little water was left in it, and that he could not reach far enough down to get at it. He tried and he tried, but at last had to give up in despair. Then a thought came to him, and he took a pebble and dropped it into the pitcher. Then he took another pebble and dropped it into the pitcher. Then he took another pebble and dropped that into the pitcher. Then he took another pebble and dropped that into the pitcher. Then he took another pebble and dropped that into the pitcher. Then he took another pebble and dropped that into the pitcher. At last, he saw the water mount up near him, and after casting in a few more pebbles, he was able to quench his thirst and save his life. So you should hear a lot of repetition in there. We talked about that when we did our poetry theme. Lots of repetition and repeating lines to get across our point. All right, so now what I want you to think about as you were reading that is kind of what are some things that help lead us to determining our theme. All right, so what events happened that helped us understand the theme, and maybe there were some surprises about how we thought things were going to end. So there were a couple of details that I noticed that should have stuck out to you. The first detail that I noticed that was important was that a very thirsty crow could not reach the small amount of water inside a pitcher. He was smart enough to place pebble after pebble into the pitcher. That was a second event that happened that he did that helped him to get to his solution. Over time, the pebbles mounted the water high enough that he could reach it and quench his thirst. Right? So those three details sort of prove where my thinking is going. So how do those events or pieces of evidence help us to determine the theme? So our theme here, kind of our overarching umbrella with all of this, is that little by little can do the trick. So doing something in small increments or small pieces can lead up to your result. So just doing a little each day or doing a little work at a time can help you lead to success, just like in this case, the crow. So he worked little by little with these pebbles and was able to do it. It didn't happen overnight. He had to do it just a little at a time to get where he needed to go. So just like with the tortoise and the hare, we talked about character traits or character motivation. So you probably should be thinking as you're looking for your theme here, what character traits does the crow possess that lead to his conclusion? We could say, just like the tortoise, he persevered, right? He never gave up. He was a hard worker, okay? He worked really hard to get to where he needed to go, which was to get the water to rise high enough so he could get a drink. He was very, very thirsty. So with those two questions should help us lead to our theme. So what events or pieces of evidence help us, and what character traits do the characters possess? Okay, so that helped to lead us to little by little does the trick. So those are some strategies you can use when finding theme. Okay, after you read it, pull out those key details that stand out to you and how they help teach a lesson. So always be asking, what is the message? What is the lesson? So by this point in the week, we should be able to not only determine the theme, but also be able to give those 3 pieces of evidence to prove our thinking. Okay, and that's what we've been practicing all this week. So your independent work today is going to be the formative assessment, which is the last part of the packet that's in Google Classroom. So you'll be completing that on your own today to kind of wrap up our topic of theme with this part of our ELA standard. And also you're going to be wrapping up your digital packets that you started or should have started on Monday that will be due tomorrow. Remember, there will not be a new lesson tomorrow. You'll just be listening and logging into the read aloud of our chapter book and wrapping up any work from the week that you need to finish. So use Friday as kind of your catch-up day. If you have anything missing, any assignments that haven't been completed, use Friday to kind of catch up and get back on track. All right, so we're wrapping up with theme today, and we'll see you back tomorrow for our read aloud. All right, so hope everyone had a great week, and we will see you soon. Bye, guys.